Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Adila.
Walaikum
We are live.
salam.
Yeah, we are live on my YouTube channel. So live streaming is going on. And just a short sort of introduction, if I would like to give, about Aadila Pretorious for my audience, for my viewers, is that Aadila Pretorious is a traditional doctor, a psychologist, a hypnotherapist as well. And I think what now I'm like more of a little bit more information. I think she would like to, share herself. So yes, let's welcome Aadila. And please, Adila, mic is yours if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself, to my audience, to my viewers. So please go ahead.
Shukran jazilan. Assalamu alaikum to all the viewers. And thank you so much, Kiran, for having me once again. Yes, just a very brief background. I am a traditional doctor in ethnopsychology. We specialize really in hypnotherapy. Beyond other modalities that we, of course, study during the course of studying ethnopsychology, of which we also incorporate a lot of metaphysical sciences, which I hope we are going to elaborate more on as we continue on this interview today. I'm in practice since 2001, so it's for the past almost 24 years. So yes, it's been a long journey, and I look forward to sharing more of what I've learned during my time in practice. Shukran.
Definitely, we would like to take the benefit, of your presence here. So thanks a lot once again for joining, Adila. It's a pleasure. It's been pleasure, many a times whenever I just, took you, whether for a live, sort of streaming or a recording. So it helped a lot. It was really, precious, valuable, and it did add value for my audience, for my viewers. Whenever I just, got the feedback from my viewers. So once again, as you know, we are discussing about a sort of a different topic, and it is a related sort of different therapies. So I wanted to know what sort of therapies should be specific or should go on for different sort of people, whether you could call it patients or people in any sense, people who are having some trouble. But before that, if we can also discuss about, because, beforehand, as I just wanted to ask you about ethnopsychology. So what is this? And if you can elaborate a little bit about ethnopsychology, and after that, inshallah, we're going to go step by step for the therapies as well.
Okay, super. So ethnopsychology is really based on, like I said earlier, we study abnormal psychology, which is very much what the conventional psychologists study. It's basically a first year study, if I can call it that, so that we have a broad overview as to, especially when we get patients that come from having been to a conventional psychologist or a psychiatrist. The reason why some people do end up by our doors, there's various reasons for it. So the main difference between abnormal psychology and ethnopsychologists is the fact that, yes, we study the abnormal psychology, but we also study critical psychology that criticizes abnormal psychology, other than, the counseling modalities, the African traditional medicines and herbs, hypnotherapy, and so forth. The main difference between ethnopsychology and conventional psychology is that we do not use the DSM, the diagnostic manual, that looks at the symptoms only. We say a person may have symptoms, but we also have to understand from a holistic perspective what is going on in that person's social surroundings, what is their spiritual beliefs, what is their cultural influences and beliefs. Because for many of us, we very well know, especially in the Islamic traditions and beliefs, that, as well as in our religion, that the Almighty Allah has created what we call jinn, that is made of smokeless fire. We know that shayateen or shaitan exists. And also, of course, in other religions, if we take African traditional medicines and beliefs, it's what they would call the tokolosh, which is, again, it's a type of demon that can possess you. And so also in Christianity. So it's a very broad spectrum where we accommodate for all religions, for all ethnicities, for people from all walks of life. So when we get a patient, obviously our main objective first and foremost is more towards looking at the psychology. Where is this person at? What is happening to them? So the current lifestyle, I have to enter that person's map of the world. And then from there, obviously, we assess which tools from a hypnotherapy perspective really we would like to apply. And I'll be very honest, I think in the last 23, 24 years, if I've had two specific cases that was related to the unseen, the world of the unseen or the spiritual realm, it is a lot. And in most cases, I mean, in the two cases that I have had, and in most cases, it is preferred to really refer that patient to a person in their particular religion, their culture, their ethnicity that deals with this particular issue. Because remember, your spiritual connection is through your religious base, if I can call it that. And that is obviously where you are going to feel more comfortable to receive that type of treatment from. But what we do and what is very important is, as an ethnopsychologist, when a person is affected with sihr, which is called black magic in English, or with evil eye, which is when a person is very jealous and they send you that negative energy. It is of course very important that we as ethnopsychologists help the person to deal with how to overcome that, because a lot of people will end in a position where they ask, but why would the creator allow this to happen to me? I'm a good person. I don't commit sin. I lead a goodly life. So it is then to help that person psychologically to overcome that type of trauma that is an addition to what they might be affected with. So in a nutshell, that is really the difference between us and the conventional psychologists. And like I say, we do not diagnose. We look holistically. We see how a person grew up. What is the cultural factors that comes with that person? What type of home do they come out from? Because as we will discuss a little bit later, is if I take neurobiologist Dr. Bruce Lipton, in his studies, he's proven how the first 7 years of our life, actually from the third trimester up to 7 years, you are in a hypnotic state. You are in a theta state where everything that happens around you're actually just absorbing all of that into your subconscious mind, which then becomes 95% of your programming. So this is why we specialize in hypnotherapy, and we delve into and go help a person to access those type of programmings, because that's many times, if you take a child that's constantly exposed to a dysfunctional home where there's fighting, screaming in the house, physical abuse, you can just understand what really is then going into the mind of that child growing up, and what does he then regard or she then regard as normal. So yes, the study of ethnopsychology goes a lot deeper than just the conventional where we look at symptoms. We really take a very broad, holistic view in treatment and in approaching how to help our patients through issues that they might be dealing with.
Thank you so much for a sort of detailed information about ethnopsychology. I hope definitely going to be helpful for my audience to understand that. Now let us, talk about some sort of, therapies. And for the first therapy, which was also coming in my mind, that was about this term CBT, which is a sort of, cognitive behavioral therapy. And what do you think, this therapy is needed for people? What sort of people, and who should seek help through this therapy? If you can elaborate a little bit about that.
Look, cognitive behavioral therapy, like you mentioned, it is remember one thing, irrespective of the different types of therapies that is out there, every person is on their own level of evolution all of the time. Excuse me, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual. So we all always at different levels of evolution. So at some point in your life, you might feel drawn to a person that does cognitive behavioral therapy, that helps you to recognize what are the negative thoughts patterns and behaviors that you have, and then the different treatments that they will apply to help you to move out from that negative space and frame of mind through different exercises where there could be a gradual exposure to stuff that might make you anxious. There could be journaling. So again, it is different things that are out there, different forms of treatment for different people. So we cannot just say it is specifically you have to go there or you have to go there. Obviously, if it's a medical condition, we have to go to a doctor, and that goes without saying. So, like I said, it all depends what that person is drawn to, and remember, therapy is there for everybody. The different types of modalities of therapy is there for everybody. There's no such thing that one person must go to just one particular place. There's enough sunlight in the world for all of us. So yeah, for me, it is depending where that person is at. Obviously, it deals specifically, like how we do as well, with people suffering with depression, anxiety, childhood traumas, all these type of things, to help them move from the negative state that they find themselves in towards a positive state of mind and being.
Thank you so much. Okay, you remember, Adila, that we did a detailed sort of discussion on hypnotherapy. And this is also one of the therapy which is very much helpful for people. So, if we can revise it a bit for my audience about hypnotherapy and its use for what sort of purposes, so then that would be a good revision. And of course, people, they would also remind kind of this therapy as well, would be useful for a lot more people to help. Yes.
Sure, sure. So hypnotherapy, it was developed in the late I'll say early 19th century by Dr. Franz Mesmer. That is where it first started. It was also then taken further by Sigmund Freud as well as Carl Jung. And basically, what hypnotherapy really is that what we do as hypnotherapists, we help the person, first of all, like I said, after the intake session, which is a very important session, because as a therapist, we've got to enter your map of the world. We've got to understand what is really going on in your situation. That's when we assess and we say, okay, when we do a hypnotherapy process, is we've got to relax the physical body, right? So we put you through a meditative process where we relax your senses, we relax the body, but you're still in a wakeful state. Then, of course, we relax your mind even further so that you become a little bit drowsy, because that is the theta state. That is really where we access the subconscious mind, where the blueprint of your programming resides, is in the subconscious mind. So we never instill or guide the process to say, go to when you were 5 years old and you were abused or X, Y, and Z happened to you. No, the process is obviously therapeutically designed so that when a person accesses a past memory, it is a memory that that person is ready to access. So we don't instill certain things into the mind at all. So we deal with what that person will then bring up during a process. And like I said, there's various steps within a hypnotherapy process, especially, I'm specifically leaning towards talking about inner child work or regression therapy, where we regress you to past hurtful events. So once a person then accesses that particular memory, after we have created, of course, a safety zone, etc., where the person are always able to step out and be the observer of that experience, it is then for them to actually feel that they're in that experience at some point. They express all the suppressed heartache, pain, emotions, kick, scream, shout, whatever they need to do in that session, because remember, the body and the mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imaginary. So this is really where the healing essence of Gestalt therapy and regression therapy lies, is, remember, we store energy in our cells. When you think a certain thought, as Dr. Joe Dispenza so eloquently in the last 12, 15 years have now come to the fore and backing us up with neuroscience, is the fact that when you have a certain thought, your brain secretes a chemical. So let's say, again, if it's a child in a dysfunctional home, that child sees this He forms an internal movie, an internal belief system. It becomes a representational system, what we call an NLP. So he starts seeing the world in a certain way. That becomes his paradigm of the world. And then he starts to think that way, because what you then think, you start to feel. And how you feel, you start to speak. And then you start to behave that way, and it eventually becomes part of your personality. To come back to the therapy itself. So when you then have these thoughts that have now turned into chemicals, those chemicals then physically lodges into the cells of the body. So now the body has got memory of what actually we're talking actual physical cells, not just the mind. You actually have, your body has memory of past hurtful events. So when we take a person into that state of hypnosis, into regression therapy, where the body now releases um, those chemical components, whether it is through crying, whether they feel like they're spinning or they're floating. Some people, I mean, in my practice, I sometimes would hold up a pillow for them to actually hit the pillow, because it is that pent up, unexpressed emotions that the body needs to release. And normally after such a session, you must remember the body needs to recalibrate itself, because now there has been this expression and this immense release of emotional energy. We always forewarn the patient that they need to understand, after such a session, it is very important that they do take time out, at least for 3 hours or for the rest of the day, where they can go and just either reflect on the process, if they still need to cry some more. Because remember, it is almost like if you take a patient a medical patient that has had open heart surgery, for example. You're not going to tell that patient, now get up and move. I mean, it's a major operation. So the same thing when we work in the metaphysical field, through the processes of hypnotherapy, and there is this release, you've got to be gentle with yourself, right? So it is important that that person does take a little bit time out. They do introspection, they go through the process, and if there's more release that needs to happen, we obviously tell them to take certain precautionary steps, etc. So the healing process, the aftercare, is also very important. And part of what is built into the hypnotherapy process, and this is why it is so important, it's a very important step, I'll say, in the process, is again coming back to the representational system that we learn in NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, is when you have now revisited the event, it's a very crucial step to ask the patient, what have you learned from this experience? What is the insight? Can you see how it has affected your life? And normally when the person comes to that realization of, I get it, nobody has the right to abuse me, or I need to use my voice, I can stand up for myself, or I need to choose to be confident, whatever it is, for every patient it's different. So when that, I'll say that light bulb moment happens for the patient, that is really when you know now you've shifted the internal movie, the internal meaning that they've given that experience. So now you're starting to create new ways of thinking, you're starting to create a new neural pathway, so that the patient then externally starts to behave, think, speak, etc., in a different way altogether. So yeah, that is in a nutshell, really, when we talk about regression therapy, hypnotherapy specifically. And yes, it is, like I said, there's a lot of overlaying that is happening right now in the world with neuroscience, where they are proving how your thoughts really affect your reality. And we can understand, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, where he said that your conditioning happens in the first 7 years of your life, like I said, from the third trimester. So you can understand the type of chemicals that's lodged in the body from a very young age, even pre-birth. And that actually, the theta state really continues up to 11 years, although to a lesser effect from 7 to 11. And then from 11, 12, that's when a lot of parents will experience the child becoming rebellious, because now the child is really in their own space, where they've got their own thinking, and they might challenge the way you have brought them up, or so there are various developmental factors that's also at play during all of this that therapists are of course aware of. And I would just say in all my years, I've had 97 to 98% success rate of all my patients. The only time I would say when therapists really have a problem is when a patient doesn't come with the full truth. Remember, we as therapists work with what you present to us.
Of course.
So when a patient does not come with the full truth of a matter, we can only help to that extent. So yeah, so that is a deep introspection of hypnotherapy, of one of the processes, I would say, one of the main ones. Yeah, I don't know if there is more that I can expound on that other than the neuroscience that Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Andrew Huberman has actually started to prove what we, as in the olden days, they would refer to us as healers. How we actually saw life, the metaphysical sciences, is now actually being proven by them through their scientific tests that how you and what you do with your mind really affects the body. So I hope that that gives you an introspection of what hypnotherapy, part of what it entails.
Of course. Thank you so much for that. But I would agree with you on this point that a lot more times what happens that patient or people they do not come up with like open mind, meaning like they need really I think to have some help, but still they hide something, and they sometimes like do not be true to a doctor or a sort of an expert or like whoever is just going to help them. So I
Mm.
think this could be our suggestion, you can call it, or advice, you can call it, that if you are really going to seek some sort of help, you need to be true to a to your doctor or to an expert. So yeah, I would agree with you on this point. There's one comment also, I would have a look of it as well just in a while. But I've heard it many a times about silver method.
Yes.
And of course, for silver method, definitely it is a sort of like a kind of useful, you can call it a sort of a therapy or a healing process, healing method. So how does it work, and for sort of like which patient it would be more helpful? So what would be your advice, or how would you elaborate a little bit about silver, if you can please share that with my audience as well?
So I'm personally, I'm not an expert in the silver method. I mean, it is also something that I researched and came across. What I would say, so the silver method is obviously for people for personal development. It helps you to develop your intuition. It helps you to develop your sense of how you pick up stuff around you in the surroundings. It involves meditation and the calming of the inner mind, where you actually access again. I would say the alpha state, which is a deep state of relaxation, which is just pre the theta state, which is the hypnotic state. But however, whether you're either in the alpha or in the theta state, it's where you can then access certain energy around you, your intuition. And like I said, I would say yes, it is of course for people that want to have stress release. They want to develop their intuition, and it's for personal development. I cannot, I'm not the expert to say you can use it specifically to alleviate anxiety or depression, because that is not my rightful place to do so. So, but I do believe the silver method is a very powerful method to teach human beings how to tap into their own intuition, their life force energy, and how to tap into that of the universe, the energy around us, so that you can use that for calming yourself down, dealing with anxiety. Like I said, it is not my field of expertise, so I can only give some comments.
Thank you so much. Of course, I do understand that as well. Like, but yeah, general idea as a traditional doctor, you just did give us, and thank you so much for that. There's one question, if you would like to respond on that. In the comment, somebody asked about. Psychotherapy called, of course, transactional therapy. So what do you think, that what type of psychological disorder can be helped with transactional therapy, if you would like to respond on that?
What exactly does the person mean by transactional therapy? I'm not clear on the question itself. Do they mean, I don't know. I mean, the person must, if you talk about transactional
If you
psychotherapy,
can elaborate it a little bit, because what I'm understanding through this, meaning
mhm,
a sort of people, they always look for a transformation in their life, maybe with
right.
different stresses or depression, and they want to relieve in a form of, like, transformation, meaning they would want a sort of a change in their life. So some
Of
sort of
course.
yeah. So your
Of course.
response on
Okay, I get where you're going to. Yes, so basically, you must understand one thing. As a therapist, we facilitate a process, we facilitate a tool, but it's very much upon the shoulders of the patient to go and implement what happens afterwards, after a session. We obviously, in hypnotherapy, we help you to release a lot of those chemicals, we help you to express suppressed emotions, etc., and we give you the aftercare. We also give a lot of, call it homework or coaching homework, where we will tell you to, and in most of the sessions there is affirmations that will come out, which you can then directly connect with the emotions that you experienced during the time you were, in the therapist rooms. Because why? When you take that affirmation that's in the first person I, it's in the present, now I am, or I am, and it is in the positive sense. It is very important that patients do their homework. They do take time to meditate or pray or just sit for a moment and repeat their affirmation, truly take it in. So that new neural pathway, that new way of thinking becomes part of the new formation of the brain. Because just as much as trauma can shape the brain, therapy can actually help you to reshape your brain as well. So it is not just for remember, hypnotherapy or ethnopsychology or any therapy out there, it is not a magic wand. It is not something that we say, some kind of mantra or something, and you're a changed person. No, you've got to do the work. And remember, life is a journey. Life is about exploring. Life is about, there's nobody exempted from Mother Earth's trials and tests. We all going to get tested. We're all going to go through trials, but you've got to apply yourself. So once you've reached out, depending on the therapist, look, every therapist goes into a session with their own qualifications, their own life experiences, their own number of years of experience. So it all depends where you are also in life. And I mean, in my personal experience, I would draw certain particular people in my life, and I know I have the experience to help them. So yes, it's got a lot to do. There is no such thing that there is a guaranteed you're going to be A, B, C, D after a therapy. You have got to apply yourself as well. We as therapists can merely but facilitate the tools and the processes and the homework, but you've got to apply yourself as well as the patient, because the application of personal responsibility in your life and what you do with your life is on your shoulders.
that?
I mean, our scripture of the Holy Quran, for example, is full of that. That whatever befalls you is what your own hand has put forward. It's a little example of that. So it's very important that you do take self-care and aftercare and follow the instructions that your therapist or your doctor would give you.
I would fully agree with you, Adila. It's something, your willpower is also important. I'm like, how would a sort of an expert would facilitate you until unless you're not going to help yourself, until unless there won't be your willpower, included. So yeah, for that, I would definitely agree with you that yeah, a patient or person or people, they should have that sort of willpower, that they really willing to do something, a sort of a change, or if for sort of transformation. So thank you so much for that, for responding on this question. There's another therapy which is also originated from Japan. And it's also kind of, I'd say, a very sort of traditional therapy, very old sort of, Chinese therapy about Reiki. It's also a form of like energy healing. How do you see it? Did you also check, like of course we are discussing about therapies as well, but is it something that you saw patients and they came up to you and they said that, oh, we tried silva but it didn't work for us, or we tried silva but it did work for us? How did you see it, or did you hear about some positive changes through this therapy? Please would like to share, like if you
Yeah,
can.
sure. Okay, just to add one last thing on the previous on the person that has asked the question, and I'll just say one very brief thing is that it boils down to you must have the desire that you
Mm,
want to heal your life. You
mhm,
must foster that sense of self love. I want better. I want to heal. So the fostering of desire is very, very important. So, okay, so to come to the question with regards to Reiki, is remember, like what I said in the beginning, there are different healing modalities that people are drawn to at different times in their lives. So we
mhm,
cannot say, this is not a platform, and I know, Kiran, you're not the type of person. We are not here to knock any type of therapy because they all have their rightful place. We cannot deny the knowledge that Allah Ta'ala has given to people over the centuries for healing. So yes, of course, Reiki is a Japanese methodology that a practitioner, of course, channels energy onto a person's body, either through touch or near touch. It was discovered by a monk that was meditating, and he came across on how to actually tap into the universal life force energy. That's what the word Reiki really means.
mhm,
So by tapping into that, he learned how to channel that through his system, through his hands, onto another human being. Now, yes, of course, when we are channeling energy, it can and it will have an effect on another person the same way words can have an effect on another person, right? So when
mhm,
you channel that energy, it definitely affects the auric system or the energy system of the patient. Um, Albeit that it merely balances the energy centers within that person, and it maybe just triggers that the person goes to the next level of, okay, this was wonderful, I'm going to try something else now next time. That is also okay, yeah, so that is a little bit about Reiki. I would say to my Muslim brothers and sisters, having studied Reiki myself, crystal healing myself, there are a few things that we obviously as Muslims need to be aware of. I personally studied it, but I don't practice it for religious purposes because Reiki itself, when I studied more than 20 years ago, is that it involves the focusing on Taoist symbols. Now, if you are not a Taoist, as a Muslim, obviously we would rather focus on Surah Al-Fatiha, our healing modalities, what is again our spiritual connection to what will work for us as Muslims, and the same will go for Christians or the next faith. So but I think the universal principle of being able to channel energy was the good that I took from that, because it is something that we all have an ability to do. We just have to learn the techniques of how to do it. And the same can be said about crystal healing. We know that crystals each have a certain vibration that it gives off, as do your
definitely.
body. So when a crystal healer picks up, there is different vibrations, because we all obviously get attuned as well to how to sense the auric field of another person. we will place certain crystals on certain places of the body so that it can help to recalibrate and bring balance or expansion to that part of the energy center of the body. But like again, I'll again say to our Muslim brothers and sisters, as much as we know that crystals are used, like the in your quartz watches, it is used in radio frequencies. We know that crystals have that ability to as a conduit for electrical currents.
Mhm.
Um, it is again very important that we take cognizance of the fact that yes, crystals can be used to store, of course, positive energies. That there's methods that we learned on the course to charge your crystals, to purify them, to cleanse them. You can charge them with the Holy Quran, but the danger that lies in this, in this too, is negative energies that we know of are also very drawn to crystals, and they can actually, put their energies inside of the crystal. And then, of course, the other part is, and this is really where the even I can almost say equally dangerous or maybe more dangerous, is that it can take you away from having true faith in Almighty Allah. So if a person wants to do, let's say, crystal healing, you want to go for a crystal healing session, remember it is not the crystal. The crystal is almost like a herb. It's something that you're going to take, you're going to do, but your faith always has to remain in the Almighty Creator, that all healing truly comes from Him. These are merely tools to help us to, let's say, rebalance our physical as well as our spiritual bodies. Yeah, so that those are the two that I would say is less invasive on the body if we compare that to, for example, acupuncture or reflexology, which is another forms of healing, of course. But yeah, these are just little things that people need to take cognizance of, is that people, one of the warnings in my studies when I studied crystal healing, and I of course reached out to different sheikhs, and I asked, what is the permissibility? And like I said, like I was told that it is something that negative forces do find very attractive. So there is that danger in that. But the biggest thing is that people start using it as an amulet. In other words, they need to wear it. They need to have it in their purse. So this is where the danger comes in. Now you're starting putting your faith in. I have to have a crystal around my neck. Instead of having, I need to pray my du'as to protect myself. My faith is in Allah. So it's just these little things that people need to be aware of. There's no harm in going for that, in that sense that, okay, it helps to rebalance your spiritual bodies, because crystals, they do have an effect on the physical body of a human being. But it is still important to regard it as a healing tool and not put your faith in it as, I have to have that crystal. It's the same as having an amulet around your neck to say, this particular thing is going to protect me. So yeah, I hope that gives a little bit of introspection on both these for you, Kiran.
Course. Yeah, but a bit scary, of course, like you're going to help yourself or maybe helping other people.
Mm,
And it could have a sort of negative impact as well, of course, like, in sort of kind of negative energies. So, yeah, a bit scary. So, people, they should be mindful and more careful that if they are just gonna do for these sort of therapies, so they should be really, very, very much careful that, yeah, will
it,
be will be kind of well expert in that sort of healing therapy. And of course, as a patient, or like as a kind of seeker, that you really need help, so
mm, mm.
be like mindful for that. So yeah, I've also, when I was just jotting down some questions, and I thought I'm going to ask you this and I'm going to ask that. I was searching for another sort of a therapy, and I don't know whether you're aware about it, because this is also new for me and I've never heard it before, about a sort of pranic healing. What is it? I mean, is it something really exists, a sort of a healing, or it was just a sort of a, I took an information, because I'm also, my mind is also not clear for this pranic healing. If you have some information you can share with us. And then my second question, or next question, was about acupuncture also, because you
Mm,
remember that we had to talk about some sort of healing practices as well for body aches, for pains. It's not about
mhm,
our stress or depression, it is also concerning about our body aches and pains, because they also, do
mhm,
come some sort of, different sort of situation. So first
mhm.
thing about chronic healing, and then, I would ask you about proper question kind of acupuncture,
Okay,
please.
I just want to understand the question very clearly. When you are you talking about chronic healing?
No, it's not a chronic healing, it is a pranic healing, and I was also sort of, confused,
Oh,
really it is. So
okay. Look, I'll be honest. I'm not so sure what exactly you are referring to. I'll have to look up on that. I'm not sure if you're referring to craniosacral healing, which again is not my field of expertise in that sense, because I'm not so sure exactly which therapy you are referring to.
mhm.
Um, I'll move on to the next question that you
Sure,
asked
please.
about I'm sure it was the acupuncture and the
Right.
reflexology. Is
Mhm.
yes, these are obviously more invasive in the sense that if we look at reflexology, we know that there are certain nerve endings in your feet,
Mhm.
as well as in your hands and even on your ears. So, with reflexology, it is actually pressing on certain nerve endings that it then correlates to certain organs within the body. So, of course, we are body, mind, and soul. So, you have a body, you have a mind and programming, but you really are a soul. So those three things we need to understand is when a reflexologist then presses on the physical body, they're obviously activating that particular energy current within the body that will affect a certain organ.
Mhm.
So that is really your reflexology, and like I said, it could be the feet. That mainly it is the feet, but they can also use your hands as well as your ears. And then, of course, acupuncture itself is an ancient Chinese medicine. And this really is where they place very tiny needles on the energy pathways within the body, which again is a study that was developed, like I say, from ancient times. And again, that will affect the flow of energy within the body, causing then healing to certain ailments. It can cause relaxation. And like I said, it moves the energy within the body. So it's all part of different healing practices.
Mhm.
And especially if you think of people that suffer with backaches or chronic
Yeah.
pain in their legs or their back, these type of things, especially with the placement of needles into certain energy pathways in the body, you can imagine that it will affect that nerve, which is really a kind of energy that runs through the nerve. It will affect that part of the body and alleviate pain. I'm not sure that was chronic pain that you were referring to, but definitely those type of modalities, they really do have a wonderful effect on the physical body, and it helps to shift the emotional bodies as well. But again, it depends on where the patient is at and how much effort the patient is putting into changing their circumstances. Remember, we cannot heal in the environment where we get sick. So
Mhm.
if you are in an environment that is unhealthy, which let's say you are with an abusive partner, and you're going for Reiki and you're going for crystal healing and then you're going for reflexology and you're doing all these type of things, but you're still in that abusive situation, chances are you're going to really find it very hard to get better. So this is again where personal responsibility comes in. You've got to have the desire and the self-love to say, I want better for me because I love me and I deserve to have good. So that is when you'll see as a patient many times, by the time many of them reach us, they've been through different healing modalities. And like I said, there's a time and a place for everything. There's not one healing modality that I will shoot down and say, you know what, taboo, it doesn't work. It's not my place to do that because we all go through we all are always at different level of evolution all of the time. And sometimes you're ahead in the race and sometimes you're not. And that's also okay. So I hope that answers. I'm not sure, Kiran, was it the chronic healing or the chronic therapy that you were referring to?
No, that was a pranic healing.
Oh, okay,
Something
now
I don't. Yeah,
no, I'm
sure.
sorry, I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
Not a problem then. Yeah, we'll do more research on that. But yeah,
Yes,
but that was also
absolutely.
about that was also about a sort of, I think, kind of balancing and healing the body energy field without sort of physical touch, meaning without physical touch,
Mhm.
a person can have healing through pranic healing. So this was the information which I also got it. But yeah, yeah, we'll see, we'll
We
look
can
into
do some
that.
research on it together and then find some proper
So
answers because, so that we can share the correct information. Yes, sure.
yeah, definitely. So yeah.
Yes.
uh, okay, so as you also mentioned about like some therapies, first thing, you do you have, like, as a patient, as a person, do you have desire, a desire to for healing or to get yourself better? First thing. But if people, they are trying different therapies and they have the desire, and they're just saying that, yeah, we really, seeking help. But some of the, and you also mentioned that, yeah, some therapies sometimes work at one point in one place, and the other one maybe, they would work maybe the next time or something. But for the chronic pains, like, I had migraine pain or migraine issue since long. Maybe my lifestyle was a issue, my lifestyle was a problem. But then I tried, of course, as you said it, and I had a desire that to get rid of this pain, of this chronic pain. And I did work hard for that, and maybe I just did some changes in my lifestyle, and I found myself better. So which therapy, or I'm like, from your side, what do you think, if you tried something, that you had a chronic pain and then you tried that therapy and it did wonders for your, like, for your relief and getting rid of that pain? If you can give any advice on, like, sort of chronic pains, is it something, should we go for a lifestyle changes only, or something, a sort of different therapies we should also try on, if you can respond on it?
I personally think a combination, especially if it's chronic physical pain that a person is suffering with. Of course, we must never forget our medical doctors. They are also obviously qualified in their own right, and we don't know if it is something much more severe. So definitely, the medical route is one way to go, as well as, of course, lifestyle change. And like I said, with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, um, how he explains that when you have, excuse me, when you have a certain thought all the time, because let's say you're exposed to a certain environment, your brain will secrete certain chemicals, and that chemicals then lodge into the physical body, causing certain pain, dis-ease, and discomfort. So it is important that a holistic approach be taken, because sometimes a person will have a certain ailment or chronic pain that will come up, and it will involve more than just a medical doctor or a psychologist. You need to go and see what are the underlying issues, maybe, of where this comes from. So, absolutely, lifestyle change, your eating habits, what you think, what are you taking into. Remember, our risk, our sustenance is not just what the money that we earn. It is also everything that we take into our system. What we look at, what we talk about, because all of that affects our physical bodies in the end as well. So definitely a holistic approach, especially for people suffering with chronic pains. Um, Absolutely recommended.
Okay, thank you so much, uh, Dr. Adila, for mentioning this. In last, if I could ask you one, not like, I'd say, last but not the least, it's something about, in general, sort of therapies. Like, we always, recommend other people as well, and we try to, bring it in our own practices about meditation, about some sort of music therapy, and about some sort of, good exercises or yoga. So, in general, I mean, what do you think these therapies are the best ones? Like, we should pick on, and if you want to add up something in that. Mike is yours. That will be my last question of today's session. Please go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so basically, we know that we are actually very much based on vibration. Um, because if we go back to the creation of mankind, Almighty Allah said, "Be," and it was. So the actual spoken word "be" is a vibrational. It's a sound. So sound definitely affect our bodies. So that's why we can understand, for example, from a Islamic perspective, why we are anti-music, because we know, especially in today's times, that there are in a lot of the entertainment industry is used to actually affect the minds, bodies, and vibration of people, especially our young people. So, music is something that we need to, of course, from an Islamic perspective. I'm speaking, from that perspective, we've got to be careful. I mean, if you simply listen to the Quran as opposed to music, you are going to feel a different vibrational energy for sure. I don't know if our viewers have recently, or maybe in the last year or so, seen a clip where a person would play music parked on the side of a road where there were cows grazing, and the cows wouldn't be bothered. In fact, some of them would walk away. But when he went then actually played the Holy Quran, the Surah of the cow, Surah Al-Baqarah, he would play that, and the cows would actually come towards the vehicle. So we can see that sound has got a very, very profound effect on us as human beings. So yes, there is, of course, I personally don't, for most of it, I don't even recall when I've ever actually used music in my practice. When we use meditative or calming music, simply because I am Muslim, and we try to avoid music wherever we go in that sense. So yeah, we of course, music does influence us. Um, you know. So yes, absolutely. And Kiran, sorry, just remind me, what was the other question you asked?
I just wanted you to add up some more therapies in general, meaning like as a sort of meditation or a yoga, and I give you the example
Oh
of the other like.
yes,
So, what
yes,
other therapies which you can add up in there?
yes, of course. It is very, very important, the lifestyle that a person leads. The quietening of the mind. You're mentioning yoga. Of course, for people that are into yoga, it's for them what they get out of it. We know as Muslims, when you read your salah 5 times a day, the method in which your body actually moves during salah is a form of activating those particular spiritual points within the body, which is a similar effect to what yoga can have on the body itself. So again, it's very important, your lifestyle. When you are reading your salah, when you are finished with your salah, take the time, sit and meditate, focus on Allah, talk to your creator. It's really the switching off of the outer world and really just focusing on the inner world and your connection to source or to the creator. The quietening of the mind is very, very important. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, of course, also refers to the heart, mind, or the heart brain coherence, and how important that is, because the more calm you are within, the higher your vibration. And that's really where we all are obviously aiming to be at, is to be better versions of ourselves all of the time, raising our vibration so that we can gain nearness to our creator, to whom inshallah we will all return to.
Thank you so much for that. There is no doubt about it that one of the best therapy is, our salah, our prayers. So yeah, we should stick on to that. And 5 times, prayers it could do wonders, not especially for our mental health, but definitely for our physical health as well, because we are moving our body, and our body would be in motion So I think there's no sort of comparison if we, compare that with our own prayers being Muslim. So thank you so much, Adila, for that. And I hope that it is a wonderful, wonderful session, wonderful, wonderful discussion with you once again. And, I would really, really, do thankful, from the bottom of my heart that you, join me again today, and shared beautiful thoughts, and of course beautiful tips, and some sort of good instructions in regards for therapies. So thank you so much. Any last word from your side if you want to share with my audience in after?
Jazakallah khairan for having me once again, Kiran. It's always a pleasure. And yes, thank you for the audience and for people asking questions. Thank you for that and engaging with us. It's always appreciated and always welcomed. And yes, it is. I think the most important message for me is in that simple word, desire. It starts with learn to love yourself enough to foster that desire that you want better for yourself. So, if there's anything I want to leave people with, whichever modality, whichever place you want to go, learn to love yourself so that you can have the desire that you want better. And everything will change when you change. When you take responsibility to make different choices, that is when things are going to start happening for you. So, shukran jazilan once again, Kiran. It was lovely. And I hope to be back on your show soon. Shukran jazilan.
Inshallah, so soon, inshallah. So it's pleasure to, want you to be here. So it's my pleasure, to be here with this live session one more time, once again. And with this last note, love yourself. It is important. We have to love ourselves because self-love is important. Once you would love yourself, and then you would love your and take care of your dear and near ones. So on this beautiful last note, I'm ending this session, and inshallah I'm going to see you soon again. Until you take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.
Shukran jazilan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam. Bye.
Bye bye.